Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Twilla Happy Hour, starring Jared Anderson and David Weiss, where if head trauma had a podcast, it would sound like this. Today's guest, representing the 29th District, Bridger Bolinder.
Yeah, we need to put like a cheer on.
Did I say it right?
I agree. Yeah, you did. I mean, it was close. Huh, Jared? He was all right. For a New York guy, I think he did okay.
You probably did it correct. It's us Grantsville boys that do it wrong, let's be honest. Where we just kind of Bolinder.
That blender, yeah.
We don't
Blender.
Yep.
we don't accentuate stuff. But anyways, yeah. So you just got done with your freshman session.
Freshman session, yeah. And I was listening a little bit earlier. So first of all, thanks for the introduction. And second of all, I appreciate the show more than maybe those with the Tribune. And so anyway, I appreciate the service you guys do for our community out here. I think it's great. So,
Makes us happy to do it. It really does.
It's like therapy, I think.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually look forward to it every week. You know, we'll message back and forth. But so freshman session, we had Tim on,
Okay.
your other co-freshmanite,
Yeah.
and did you and him get the chance to work together a bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And Tim's great. I think for me going into it was, I'd seen it from the outside quite a bit over the years, but just getting into the middle of it and really, getting involved with the caucus and the committees and just, making policy and debating policy, I think was just a unique experience. It was a lot of fun. And I did work with Tim a lot. He sits right in front of me on the House floor. Him and I have a lot of conversations about, hey, how does this bill affect our county and different things like that. So it's really cool. Tim had an awesome session, and you're well represented here in Twilla. Tim's a great guy and is a good voice for Twilla and Twilla County, really.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Twilla County has to be the luckiest county in Utah.
Yeah, it's a good county. We have good representation here. I think, it was fun. I think this session I've been told was pretty unique, and I don't have anything to compare it to, right? Because I'm brand new, but, certainly we have 15 new freshman conservatives on the Republican side. And that was kind of unique because we had, I've been told it moved the body in the House further to the right, which was good. And so we had a lot of people that were able to feel like things were a little more conservative than they have been in the past. And so, and I could go on and on about our freshman group. We had just an awesome group that ran some hard bills. I mean, Tim had one that was a CRT bill that others had tried to run, similar legislation in the past. And he was able to get it done. It looked a little different than some of those past bills that had been run, but it was great. And then we had, Katie Hall ran a bill protecting youth in the transgender world and things like that. And we had one of our other freshmen, Jason Kyle, he ran some election bills, which aren't easy bills to run.
Well, I'm sure those, especially right now.
Yeah.
Even though you would feel like the tempo is that those need to be ran, by nature, conservatives will say, okay, hold on, what's going on?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
By just their very nature, they'll say, are we walking into something that we'll regret later?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I was really encouraged by what I saw from our freshman class. I think it was great. I mean, we had, and I could go on. I mean, there's just so many that ran good bills. And a lot of the freshmen, when you go into this, not really understanding what you're about to go into, I mean, they just fearless, like a fearless group of lawmakers. And maybe we were too naive to be scared, but it was, anyway, really cool experience, really proud of Tim and all the others that came in with our group.
So you would say there was a very healthy turnaround, or not turnaround, but replacement of incumbents.
Yeah, that's what I've been told, right from the get-go. I think, to be honest, I think there were lots in our body that were concerned about sort of this freshman group coming in, that maybe we were, I don't know if we were a little crazy or a little too far right wing, but I think we had a good balance of what's gone on in the body. And I think we just a good group of lawmakers that are there for the right reason. And anyway, it was really fun getting to know them and work with them, and also the people that have been there for a long time. Is got a lot of respect for my colleagues in the House and also on the Senate side too. So,
Well, and that's one thing I'd like to point out is they may think you guys are too conservative, but
Is that the right word?
knowing you guys, one, too conservative is an odd thing. Conservative means you're not going to do anything radical.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Like a notorious party from the 20s through the 40s that did some shady things in Germany could not be called a conservative party.
Yeah.
Because they didn't keep anything. They radically changed.
Right.
So, and I'm not defending them. They were still wrong, but they were a radical change. I do get the feeling on all the new guys running that we interviewed this year, there are a lot of, for lack of a better term, firebrands.
Mm-hmm.
You and Tim are not either of those.
Yeah.
You guys are both very tempered in your speech and your mannerisms.
Yeah.
So I would not call you guys firebrands. But I do think you guys are trying to grasp onto stuff that works and maintain it and try to stop stuff coming down the pike that do not work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's just the way I see it.
Yeah, and I think it's that way across the board with especially our freshman Republican group. In the freshman group, I talk about the group as the 15 conservatives, but there are some Democrats too, freshman lawmaker Democrats. Mm-hmm. And so, but
did you get along well with them?
Oh yeah, great. Yeah. They're there for the right reason, and you see things a little differently, but it's healthy.
How do you do the ice breaking on that?
You walk up, Satan.
You just walk up and say, we both know that you're wrong and that I'm right, and we can agree to that, and we'll just get along. No, there's some really great people on the other side as well. So
there are, and I mean that's where you need a further separation from just the 10th Amendment and federalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you need to let the counties run as much as they can.
Yeah,
because let's face it. If you're in Salt Lake, mass transit is a big concern of yours.
That's right. Yeah.
But out here, it's just not feasible at all.
Yeah, exactly.
You'd run the tires off a bus in 2 weeks and you'd move 3 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's just how it is. So, how about you give us an overview of your first session?
So, I think, like I said, I was told that this is a super unique session for our state. There had been policy that had been, come up this session that had come up over the last several decades, and that we were able to pass. And I think a lot of it was just the conservative, maybe moving a little right as a body. One of those was that I'll talk about a little bit. Let me back up. So the first thing that sticks out to me was the taxes, like tax cuts. And it was an interesting process to go through as you talk to their colleagues in the caucus. The caucus is a room that's next to the House floor, and the House majority meets in that room, and we discuss different policy, items and issues and debate some of those things. And the state this year had an abundance of money. There was lots of money. Lots of people pitched different thoughts and ideas of maybe we give rebates and maybe we give money back to Utahns. I was one that leaned more towards let's make a little bit deeper income tax cut. And that was something that's lasting, something that's going to affect Utah families more for the better. So one of the things with the tax bill, and this is just one piece of legislation, but HB 54, they cut the income tax rate from 4.85% to 4.65%. So if you dig into that a little bit deeper, what you're going to find is that the low income households, they see about a 22% tax cut which is huge, right?
Oh yeah.
And then the middle income households, it's around 6%. And then the higher income households, you're going to see about a 4%. So it's tax cuts for everybody across the board. The other thing that I really loved this session was because, as you're preparing for the session, you get lots and lots of emails from constituents that say, some of them aren't even your constituents, right? But they say, hey, we really need to do something about Social Security taxes, different things like that, right? So what we do on the state level with this bill,
Yeah. Can states affect Social Security?
so the Social Security is taxed by the state too, right? So we can do it on the
Okay.
state level. Okay. So what happened with this bill was the bill expanded Social Security tax credit eligibility for those that make $75,000 or less, right? And so that's what it actually did. So that to me was really significant, and it's a big number. It's I wanted to see legislation that affects the families in my district, the families in the state of Utah.
Cutting taxes affects everybody.
Absolutely.
So, in a positive way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And long term, where we're going into a downturn, I know it's transitory, whatever. We're going into a downturn.
Sure.
It's nice to not add the government to that downturn. That's a permanent,
Yeah.
And it'd be nice before we go into this downturn, just to call out to governments. You guys need to cut your budgets and get cheaper, because it's only going to get uglier. And it'd be a lot easier to cut it right now than it will be in 3 years.
Yeah, sure. No, our state as a whole, we're in a pretty good spot right now, but recession affects government, right? And it affects the revenue of the state.
Yep.
And we've got to be ready to deal with that when it happens.
The only thing recession doesn't affect is like Jack Daniels and
Yeah.
Grey Goose, the different alcohol
sure,
companies. I think everyone else gets hit on recession.
Yeah, that's right.
So, any session highlights you got going on?
So the tax cuts was one thing. Energy was something that I dove into a little bit. Ken Ivory ran a bill. It was HB 425, and the bill HB 425 had a lot to do with. Well, let me back up just a little bit on it. So the federal government has regulations in place to shut down coal-fired power plants around the United States. And coal-fired power is a huge part of our economy here in the state of Utah.
Especially Delta.
Yeah, Delta, right. So that's in my district, the IPA or IPP power plant. And they're in the process of converting from, without going too far into it, converting from coal to hydrogen natural gas blend. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so there's some, there's different opinions, and people are,
How do they get the hydrogen?
That's a good question. I don't want to pretend like I understand the process really, but it's fascinating to me a little bit. And I've talked to a lot of energy experts that talk about whether it's efficient or whether it's
I'm sure it's great. I mean, we all know natural gas is very clean comparatively.
Yeah.
But
a hydrogen blend is even more clean.
Yeah,
You add 10%
theoretically.
to a blend of hydrocarbons, and you can pretty much eliminate all of your emissions.
question for me is, how do you get the hydrogen?
Right.
Yeah.
Is that a crutch that
It will be they'll need electricity to do electrolysis with probably precious metals involved. So it won't be
are we just passing our
freebie.
are we passing our dirty energy off to Africa and China still?
Well, it's interesting when you look at the conversion of the one plant from coal to hydrogen, because the coal technology we've got now is it's clean.
We've got a clean burning facility.
And Utah is we've got huge natural resources. We have coal here. We have different things, and so when they talk of converting these plants to a quote renewable type cleaner energy, it affects our economy a lot. It affects our the coal mining industry.
We do mine coal in Utah.
We do, right? And so part of this bill, this HB 425, was to encourage energy independence in our state, right? And it's also to encourage and make it mandatory for these power plants to speak out when they have these crippling federal regulations placed on them to speak out to. This bill specifically talks about the Attorney General's office, the legislature talking, and let us fight that fight for them, right? And push back against the Biden administration and what's going on in Washington D.C. and the EPA and all the things that are crippling our economy, right? So,
Yeah, I mean, right now Biden is passing bills, some of them on the energy front that look good to 20-year-old Berkeley students, but
Yeah.
effectively just destroy our grandkids and their kids.
that's right.
But it's just the bills keep being passed for looks. None of them have any legitimacy behind them.
Yeah.
You know, any we're all going to go electric in the next 10 years bill is unattainable.
Right.
Not
Agreed.
without a new technology.
Well,
The
yeah,
battery
no-
technology is going to have to totally change in order to make that.
And I would like to
realistic.
see a bill come along after we've invented how to do it. You know, I'd hate for them to write a bill that I'm going to flap my ears and fly. I ain't learned that one yet. You know, but we can't dig up all the cobalt. There's not enough to build electric cars for everyone.
That's right. Yeah.
There's just not.
Yeah.
It's barely enough to support what California is demanding by 2035.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's what this piece of legislation, it's like, slow down. Let's make sure this is sustainable. The electricity is going to be affordable, right? Like, we need to make sure it's reliable, like all the things that you look for in electricity. And so that's the thing. You look at like what happened in Texas with the blackouts and different things like that. That's, we all rely on power, and without power, we don't have medicine. We don't have transportation. There's so many things. And so I was happy to co-sponsor that piece of legislation because the power plant is in my district, and it affects a lot of jobs in not only Millard County, but in some of the coal country and Utah Price area and different things
Yep.
like that. So that was one of my big highlights. I'll just add, there was another one that was pretty controversial, HB 215, a school choice bill. That bill had a couple of parts. It allowed teachers to get $6,000 a year raises for every teacher in the state ongoing. And it also created this scholarship program for kids that maybe don't fit in the public education system as much, and gives them other options, right, to go to different schools. And
Like, are you talking like trade schools and things
no,
like that?
it's
Or are you talking about scholarship for maybe
scholarships.
homeschool
Yeah,
kids?
sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I like
this has been done in other states with success. And Arizona is one of them. It's in Utah, we're actually the first state to pass it with a supermajority, which is pretty impressive. I mean, this is one that a lot of people worked on. We have a local Twilla individual that worked on it, Nicolene Pack. I don't know if you guys know her, but she had a lot of influence on this legislation. And anyway, it should be, and it increased our weighted per pupil average, and so it put more money into education. So there's lots of bills but it's like any bill that's significant. There's, you hear a lot of negative feedback on it too. And so you've got to kind of read the whole bill in its entirety to recognize the benefits to it. So that was something.
Did you increase your vocabulary reading all those bills?
Oh yeah, you do that. Yeah, for sure. You realize why we need attorneys, or maybe that, I don't know. It'd be easier to read it if Jared wrote it for me.
Hey,
Jared and I speak the same language.
in crayon.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you were in the Marine Corps.
I don't eat them. I'm a soldier.
Gotcha.
I color with them.
So that was the few things. My goal going into this session, and something I worked on early on, and I think I spoke with you guys about this last year on your show, but was the sand and gravel sales tax and
No.
yeah.
I want to take a second and give
Sure.
you credit because this has hung with me.
Okay.
In your professional life, you make a living off of sand and gravel and stuff like
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
And this guy has gone to our legislature to legislate against himself, to make it, to give back to his county.
Well, it's a little, so I thank you, but I don't look at it quite that way.
Yeah, it's to keep the roads safe for
to
your
me,
equipment.
it's this is something I was passionate about long before I got into politics, and I've got to give a lot of credit to Senator Sandel. Like honestly, when I was campaigning and speaking with him, and I'd found out this was one of his goals too, was to sort of solve this issue.
Well,
and,
something we've had going on for a while.
yeah, and it's a big deal for our county and lots of other counties, honestly. And so, he took the bull by the horns, got the bill drafted and running, and between him and I, we were able to meet with the right people. But this is a bill, by the way, that's been attempted over the year, maybe the last 10, 15 years.
Oh, well, let me again
Yeah.
point this out. How many operators have tried pushing for this bill?
Yeah, I don't think any.
Except you.
Yeah, and it was a fight. I mean, we got the League of Cities and Towns fought this pretty hard.
Why?
They fought it because it messes with this sales tax distribution formula. And I think the concern is you start messing with that formula, then it
Salt
can
Lake
go into
doesn't-
other things, right?
Salt Lake doesn't get all the sales tax from the removal of our
Our
that's natural resource and the use of our roads.
Exactly. No, and to me, it was crystal clear we needed to do something. And what this will mean for Twilla County, I think, is a step in the right direction. Does it solve all the problem? I don't think so, but it's a good step. It's something I'm proud of, and that Senator Sandel's super proud of, and I think we were able to pass it, and the governor even signed it, and so it's really good for our county. We have another thing I worked on this session was I was pretty vocal with some of those in leadership with it, control the budgets and things like that about getting more money to our rural counties for roads, more road money. And the state, in their budget, it was over $1 billion for counties of our size throughout the state, which is huge,
To
right?
fix roads, correct?
To build and repair roads.
Okay.
So that's a big number, and I'm really excited about that. But anyway, and then part of the session too, we're all familiar what happened with Stockton and their water system and things going on out there. I met with Mayor Nando Melly a lot and requested appropriation for their water system. They had the fire, they had the big floods, and plus the drought. And I'll put a plug in for this. So I tell people this all the time, but I ended the drought my first year.
Yeah, you did.
No, I'm just kidding. It's just fun to say. Politicians take credit for everything, right? But
nobody even gave that strategy on the podcast when we had everybody on.
Don't call him the Messiah, but we can go for like reverse Moses. He parted the waters, Bridger brought them together.
It's just fun to say. I don't know, but
and I'm thinking we're gonna feel that here
we are. Yeah,
here in
for
the
sure.
next few weeks to a month.
Yeah, I think so too. And that was one of the budget items too, is just preparing for flooding, right? And so that was, we got every year the legislature, the House does a service project. And what that looks like this year is they have different flood zones that you can go and fill sandbags, and they're planning on having some issues. And so,
let me give a quick shout out.
Sure.
In Grantsville, the sandbag station is down by the cemetery,
That's right.
correct?
Yep.
And here in Tooele, I think they have 2 stations here in Tooele, but one of them is over here by where the search and rescue parks their trailers by the municipal fuel station.
Okay.
And so if you guys need to do it, there should be sandbags there, shovels. You just pull up and fill them. But please, if you have any questions about your property, whether water's going to, encroach up to your foundation, go fill 10, 20 sandbags, build a barrier. I've been meaning to throw that out.
No, that's a good point, because I think it will be an issue, especially today actually you didn't have to wear a jacket, and later on when it's t-shirt weather, I think that's when we're going to see some.
It's going to be
again,
70s next week. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And the week after that, it'll be negative 15.
Yeah, it's Utah,
It's
right? That's
that
what we
time
do.
of year. It's exciting.
No, but I always throw that out. Anyway, the moisture's great. Stockton, though, we did a lot of things there trying to get them some money, and they didn't do a lot of the water related appropriations or leadership. So what happened with them is they're working on a grant deal through the state, and then also through the FEMA as well. So anyway, supported that. Something that you might like. I don't know if you hunt, Dave, but I ran a duck stamp, electronic duck stamp bill. Yeah. So now, Jared, you'll like this.
We're no longer prehistoric.
Yeah, well, so now you can
where I go down and some guy in fur chips out on a rock and hands me a little pebble.
Yeah, that's right. So now you go and you get online. You can buy an electronic version of that.
I don't have to go to Cal Ranch.
You don't
buy a physical duck stamp anymore. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
we
anyway,
do use an app for our hunting licenses.
Yes.
We do. Yeah.
But our duck stamp has notoriously been, you have to go down and actually buy it. Well, you have to get your hip online.
That's
then
right.
Go down and buy it. And then if it's especially like a swan or something else, you got to sit through a class, get certified for swan, and that gets applied to your hip.
That's right. Yeah, it's quite the process. And a lot of times, the reason I ran that bill is because sometimes, like, if you want to go, hunting with a friend of yours and it's mid-season, you go to the post office or cow ranch, they're sold out.
Yep.
Right? And so now you get online, get on the division website, you can buy it right there. They'll still mail it to you, but you have 45 days to use the electronic one till you get your hard copy.
Yeah, it's on your phone. Everyone has a phone.
Yeah.
And not to mention, maybe it'll save money in stamps.
Yeah. 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 I think it's a good, anyway, I thought it was good. People that might think it's silly, they don't hunt, I don't think, but those that hunt, I think like it, so.
I didn't know you needed a stamp to go kill a duck.
Yeah, duck stamp. Well, it's different levels of what you're going to hunt.
That's right.
So you have your hunting permit, which allows you to hunt upland game and rabbit and things like that, small game. And then to hunt migratory game, you get a duck stamp, unless it's special, like the Canadian goose or something like that. Upland game has birds in it as well, chukar, pheasant, things like that. And then you've got to get the large game on the other side of that, your deer, your elk, your bear, cat, whatever.
What about any alcohol bills? Has there been any movement with alcohol bills for the DABC to loosen up a little bit? Maybe we can get an app to have alcohol delivered to our house. Has there been any talk about that?
Not a lot of alcohol bills this session. There was one that I was familiar with that Jeff Burton ran, and it was, and I'm going to probably butcher this a little bit, but it had something to do with the flavoring in alcohol, took the alcohol content up above the state limit because the flavoring had a certain amount of alcohol in it. So they just made some adjustments with that. I don't know that it'll affect you guys much, but it'll,
So like if you're getting like a schnapps, it moves that alcohol to more potency?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the bill that I was familiar with that ran, but in the legislature, when you go to run an alcohol bill, there's sort of a committee or commission set up that kind of helps you navigate that, because it's a lot of stuff. So I did learn more about that on the appropriation side, how that DABS works and their warehousing and different things like that. It's quite the setup. So
do you think, just off the point where you got more familiar with it, do you think the DABC is a credit for the dollars spent to run it here in Utah?
That's a good question. I don't know,
because that's the question. We're at a private system, which is how I'd want it, because I'm a capitalist at heart. But is it a credit being run through the state like it is?
Yeah, that's a good question to answer. I don't know if I have the answer for that yet.
Yeah, maybe something that someone smarter than me and probably less busy than you should figure out.
Yeah, I can get back to you on that one.
All right. All right.
Okay.
All right. Sorry.
So I think those were kind of the main highlights. There's so many things. I mean, it's I think there were 500 and something bills passed this session.
Tim said it was ridiculous.
It was a crazy amount. The things that I'm working on for next session, a few things that I can tell you about so far would be, early on in the session, I had a constituent from Millard County reach out to me that lost their son that took his own life at 14. And she, you know, reached out and said, this is my story. This is what happened. And we feel like had there been more resources in rural areas of our state, then maybe the outcome would have been different. And so
Like mental health.
yeah, absolutely. Because you look at, you know, a lot of those that live in the Salt Lake Valley, or, you know, Utah County or whatever, they've got lots of resources. There's lots of, you know, medical and mental health professionals around, but you get into some of these rural parts of our state and there's just not as many resources available. So that's something I'm committed to work on this, you know, during the interim, is just that finding a way that we can maybe move some funding or do some things as far as, you know, mental health resources that impact our youth specifically. And so, anyway, that's something that I have a lot of interest in.
Is there like a central hotline that we have for the state for people to call if they're feeling depressed or something like that?
Yeah, there is. And I don't know how many, you know, use that. I don't know the numbers. Our Tooele Senator Thatcher, I know, did a lot of work on that. It was a really good legislation on
Isn't it 811 or?
I think it, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know exactly, but
Me too.
but that was, you know, I think that was a really good step in the right direction. And anyway, that was something I really want to dive into in this interim between, you know, now and next session. So
Yeah,
Well,
I think that's important. We got to have a place to reach out to, and we should be broadcasting and advertising, making campaigns so that people do know that number. None of us should be able to say, I don't know that number.
that's right. Yeah.
I don't know if it'd be healthy to put therapists in schools to do a universal therapy, because every time we've seen things like that tried, they've been ghastly failures.
Yeah,
like the
they have.
DARE program.
Well, I think the big thing is the parents' involvement.
Yeah.
Because I think too often we try to cut parents out of the equation. And I think the parents need the resources for their
yeah,
kids.
I don't want to put a teacher between the parents.
That's right.
And the,
Yeah, agreed.
and the therapist, or the parents and the education, or the parents and the child. But now any podcast listener has heard of BetterHelp, which is a phone and video therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, like for smaller rural areas, even a place the size of Grantsville with its 15,000 people or whatever,
Right. Yeah.
maybe wouldn't be able to support a teenage specialized therapist. But I wonder if some kind of teletherapy would work in that system.
It sure could. And that's what I just really want to explore and just see what's worked in maybe other states and what's worked. You know, too often we get into the mindset of we need to create something new, but a lot of times there's a good answer that somebody's already using somewhere else. And so and it's not an area that I have expertise in. It's not like, it's just something that this constituent came to me and
I feel very.
it tugged at my heart some, and I thought, you know, this is a real issue, and we need to figure out something.
Awful. Blair says it's 988.
Thank you, Blair.
Yeah.
And Blair, shout out to Blair too. He
Yeah.
does a lot with that stuff, and grateful for his
he
work.
does. Blair does it on the veteran side a lot.
That's right. Yep.
And Thatcher does it a lot on just general. He's a big push. Also, you know, I'm a little older than you, but both of us are well out of high school. Why don't they bring woodshop back? We didn't seem to have these problems when kids were
Which I know.
cutting wood and.
Did we really lose woodshop?
Yeah,
It's not there anymore.
as far as I know,
I don't know. That's a good question.
you know, I know ag mechanics isn't there.
Really?
Animal science isn't there. And if I told you guys about animal science, that's a horror story for any teenager right now.
Yeah, I think there's something we can do with this, and I think there's, you know, kids. I wouldn't want to be a kid growing up today, frankly.
Oh,
I mean,
with the phone?
there's so many things that they're up against, and so my goal is just to reach out to those that are experts in this field and just say, hey, look, what can we be done? And then my job from there is to create a bill, get the funding, and just make sure that that's implemented in the right way. And then that's where, and my hope with that is to to create a good system for those that youth that struggle with mental health. And so, anyway, that's something that came to me pretty early on that I wanted to work on. And then the other thing I'm working on is a bill, and I can't really go into the details right now, but it's a bill to hold public utility companies more accountable. And what I mean by that, a lot of times, you call the power company, you can't get a hold of them, they don't call you back, and so it's just one of those things that creates this accountability. And because frankly, if you call if you need to get your oil changed and you call Jiffy Lube and they don't call you back, you have 10 other options.
Yeah. Well,
if you need power from somewhere else, you can't go anywhere else, right?
It's the cost of monopoly.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think there's something to be done as far as, okay, these are necessary services for every Utahn. Every single person uses electricity and gas, and making sure that calls are being answered, that they're able to get the services that they need. So that's the other thing I'm working on, a lot of details to work out on that. And then just recently with my I call it a win with the sand and gravel amendment, but a lot of the work I do professionally is for UDOT and different things like that. Just this week I was appointed to the Wasatch Front Regional Council. So I'm the House member to represent that council. And then there's a Senate member on that as well. And what that looks like is we meet I think once a month, and there's some people from the department heads and different things like that. And so anyway, it'll be a good voice so Twila County right now has 1 voting member on the council, and like Salt Lake has 4, Salt Lake County, and then Utah County I think has 3, and then so it'd be nice having another voice for Twila County up there. And even though my job there is to represent the entire state from the House side, but I'm a Twila County guy too. So, and then
well, you're not going to make any decisions that'd hurt another county
absolutely,
or that would help us at the expense and hurt someone else.
Yeah.
And we're such a big county. It's good to have representation in something like that.
Yeah, we're a huge county.
Yeah, and frankly, we have a lot of transportation issues and needs, and there's a lot to consider. So I'm excited.
We're the county with the biggest stretch of freeway.
Yeah, that's right.
We're the county with the most rural roads.
Yeah.
I mean, Box Elder, you're bigger, but
yeah,
you got 2 roads in you, and they all go through Nevada.
That's right.
So
yeah, so there's that one council that I'm on, and then I'm on another committee through the governor's office and it's transportation related. And so those are assignments that I just got this week actually. And so I'll be working on those 2, a lot of transportation related legislation. So
let me ask a question.
Yeah.
Okay. So you become a legislature, you make a, what is it? 75 cents every 10 years or something.
That's right. Pretty close.
I know. I'm on the bullseye. I'm over target.
Yeah.
But when you get assigned to these extra duties, do they increase the pay any?
No.
You still eat the same pay, and
that's right. Yeah.
And still try to manage.
Until you get into like the leadership type positions, and I think they give you a little bit more, but look, nobody's there for the money for sure. Everyone's there because, and I admire, honestly, I tell people this all the time. People say, what's your favorite part of serving in the legislature? And I would say, like, if I had to pick 3 things that were my favorite about it, it would be the people would be probably the biggest one. Like I really, the people that are there, it's easy for the media to be critical of what's going on, and different things like that. But there's some really great people there. And really it is in the legislature, in both the House and the Senate. I think it's a sample of the best that Utah has to offer. And then there's me, right? And so like I think it's really cool that just the people and the quality people that are there, and that are there for the reason they want to do good things, and they want to see positive changes in our state, and really to not only that, but to maintain what we already have here in Utah. And Utah, I feel super lucky to grow up in a state like this, and that's why I ran in the first place, because I wanted to maintain that, like Grantsville, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's my home, and Utah, it's like that, at least for, for us growing up, it was like that throughout the state. And I just I want to keep it that way as we get growth and we get these different challenges that come our way. And so, anyway, it's really cool to be there with so many great people that want to be there, because nobody does do it for the money, right? And so
Yeah, there's not a lot of money in it.
yeah, that's right. But it's really cool. So I would say that just the people and the quality of people. And it's interesting. You go home at night during session and you turn on KSL or something, and they talk about what's going on at the legislature. And I'm thinking, is this the same legislature that I was at this week? Because that's not what happened at all. You know what I mean? And you just see some of that, and
You start to understand where the fake news thing came from with
sure,
Donald Trump.
yeah, sure. And we hear that and we joke about it, but that's but what really happens there, and generally there's a lot of good things happen there, and a lot of it's bright people that are doing their best to make good decisions for the state. So
Do you think that the issue with the media is that all of them are located in Salt Lake or maybe Provo, and that so all their points of view come from just that urban centric ideal?
it could be. I don't know, because I hate to paint them all the same way too, right? Because there's some really great.
I'm actually posing a defense.
Yeah,
because
no,
they
absolutely.
won't see.
Yeah.
A grant, because the Tooele Transcript is gone. The Grantsville Gazette is gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all been absorbed into, smaller and larger area covering places.
Sure. Yep.
And so we don't have a local paper out here.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't feel represented by the Deseret News or the Salt Lake Tribune or any of that.
Uh-huh.
Because they don't say anything that we recognize.
Yeah. There's a paper, in my district that I'm proud of. It's the Millard County Chronicle. And it's a small paper out of Delta, and they do a good job, and and they've got their stories and different things, and it's things that people in Millard County care about,
like the Grantsville Gazette.
Yeah, like the Grantsville
20 years
Gazette.
ago.
Yeah, exactly. So so I hate to say that it's all bad, because it's not, but I think there's just this. I think we need to anyway, without getting too off track, we need to kind of know what's going on for ourselves, and talk to our elected representatives and people at all levels of government, and just
So we're hoping to provide here. Let you come on and tell us your impression.
No, absolutely. And that's why I do appreciate it. It was funny, because I was listening to it on the way up here, and I had the thought, how long have you guys been doing this?
2 years now.
Has it been only 2 years? Okay.
Yeah.
It's because I think it's great during the election cycles. I think it's great, everywhere in between. I think I think it's a really valuable service that you guys provide. And I appreciate you doing it. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
And,
You're welcome on any time.
And I think I missed Tim's. I'll have to go back and watch Tim. So
He was, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave wasn't here. It was just me and Tim. And
Okay.
Tim talked about some of the same bills you did.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And obviously you guys both got working on other bills separate. So it's good. And it's good to see our county represented up there in such an active fashion.
Yeah.
So not that this one topic I'm about to bring up is a huge impact to us, but it's definitely squeezed a lot of drama. The flag issue, I have to ask.
Sure. Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
So that's a good question, because I'll tell you honestly. So as I got into this, I knew that was coming up. I knew the flag bill was coming up, right, and all the controversy around that. And so I consider myself like, hey, I'm old school, right? Like, I don't know that we need to change anything, right? Like, but I'm like, I need to reach out to constituents and see what people think. And so I started with the people that served as state delegates. And I reached out to, and I probably talked to 60, 70 people, right? And this was people in Tooele County, Millard County. Even part of my district is out in Juab County, out by Callio. That's in my district. So I reached out to
all of that.
I reached out to that one Barbara Mom is her name. She's
If you call out there and they say you have the wrong number, then there ain't no other
then
number.
there's no other number. So I reached out to all these people, and as I talked to people, I didn't get a single yes as far as like wanting to change the flag, not a single one. And so that made me take a look at it and say, okay, this is what my constituents want, and this is how I will vote. And I respect, the sponsors of the bill. I get, the presentation and what they were trying to do. Like, I get all of that. But at the end of the day, that's not what my constituents wanted. And I, being old school and wanted to protect history, I thought, you know what, I'm going to vote against it. And I did. And I voted against that, and it passed anyway. Okay. So,
can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Cause I'm beside myself with this. Can you still man for me the argument for changing it? No one has been able to explain to me why there's a push to change it.
So I'll give you kind of the
Even if it's just
backstory.
the
The
argument they
backstory,
gave
as
you.
I understand it. So I was in I watched the committee, I guess, when they presented, and it was Senator Dan McKay that ran it on the Senate side, and then Mike Schultz, who's a friend of mine, that ran it on the House side. And so the argument was, Dan McKay, and I don't want to butcher this at all, so just forgive me.
Yeah,
This
just
isn't
give us your
100%
impression.
accurate. So that Dan was back in Mount Rushmore, actually, and I guess the walkway going up to the the mountain of Mount Rushmore is lined by all 50 states' flags. Okay. And so from what I understood, was one of his kids said, let's find Utah's flag. Okay. And so they had to really search for it, and they were trying to find which one it was, because there's lots of
Because you got Utah, Illinois, New York.
yeah.
They all look very similar.
They're kind of in the blue
It's
flags.
the Federalist flag,
Yeah,
is what it is. They all built it.
They kind of have the state
It was-
seal type.
It was a way, when they first started out with the flags, it was a way. I mean, it's just right after the Civil War, I think 20 years before.
Yeah.
And they had just come up with the notion of making a stronger union. So they started building all the flags the same.
Yeah.
And some states never did, especially states after, I think about 1880, you start seeing like the New Mexico state. But Utah, when it came in, it jumped in feet first with the Federalist, the old school Federalist flag.
Right. Yep. No, and so that they tried to find this flag, and it didn't really stand out. Right. And, the arguments I heard was comparing it a little bit to like Texas. Like, we all know Texans are super proud of their flag, right? They like that star, the Lone Star State, and they fly it proudly. And the thought was, from Senator McKay and others, was, Utahns don't seem to show that same enthusiasm over our flag. And so that created this, this flag, I don't know, call it a commission, I guess, with different designs pitched and different things like that. And so that's kind of my understanding of kind of the inception of this idea that we need to change, our state flag and our branding and whatnot. So that's the argument that I heard.
No, that's a good steel man.
Yeah.
Thank you, because no one has given me a steel man argument why they wanted to change it.
And
I hadn't heard that before.
If you go into in your spare time, if you want to bore yourself to death, you can go into the committee meetings and watch they're all recorded, and you can hear Senator Dan McKay give his presentation. It'll include what I'm telling you, and then lots of other things. Because so for me, as I look at it, I voted no on it because I felt like I listened to the people in my district that I represent, right? And so
what else you gonna do?
I voted no. And so but with that, I have the utmost respect for those on the side of change and the side that didn't want it changed. And there's a lot of great people that are on both sides of this issue, and I have respect for all of them. And we've got folks here in Twila County running this referendum. I think it's great. I don't see a problem with it. I think the public voting on this is is probably the appropriate thing to do. I don't,
It affects so many people. It affects them on the fringes of their life,
sure. Yeah.
but it does affect them.
Yeah, it does. And so I appreciate, Chad Saunders, I'll shout out to him. He's one that's doing a lot on this. So,
He's our county guy on it.
he's doing a lot on that. And I know Tim's done a lot on it. And so I think it probably is the right thing for it to go to the ballot and for the general public to make that decision. And so, again, I respect both sides. I was on the side that voted against it, and so that was my reason. I just told you there.
Well, thank you for the Steelman, because all I've heard, I haven't heard that. I guess Chad talked about that. McKay wanted our flag to be modern and more presentable.
Yeah, sure.
Which didn't come clear to me, but as you explained it, because I've been to DC, I've stood at the World War II Memorial, and yes, our flag is the same as, I think at this point 12 other states.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I especially appreciate reaching out to the delegates. That's a good idea. And that is I didn't think of that. That's a good idea.
That's the way to do it. And kind of let you wash your hands of the whole deal.
Well, that was important to me.
You don't have to sit and go, oh, what do I do, and stress about it at night. You say,
right.
All right, I've got the number for all my delegates, and whoever answers tonight.
Yeah. Sure.
Because this decision, I could go either way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it was a compelling argument, honestly, to vote for the change. So for me, delegates are people that, and I really respect that whole convention process and caucus convention. And so those people, I had their number on speed dial, so to speak, in my phone. And so I'm like, shoot, I'm going to call. Yeah. Holly was one of them. Yeah. Whit Cook was one I talked to, these are people that are involved because truthfully, if you just call anyone, they might say, well, I don't really care. I wanted to call people that had an opinion, on this. And so, anyway, that was my approach. And, that was kind of, by the way, are you guys attending the Twilla County GOP convention next week?
I think Holly would probably, kill me in my sleep.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
It's on Thursday at Twilla High School.
Yeah.
Okay.
It should, Holly, and I'm honored to.
Sure.
Yeah. And if the Democrats have something, I'm honored to go to that, because I am not a Republican.
I know that. Yeah.
But everyone that lives around me, including all my family members, are, and I support the Republicans on a lot of their measures.
Sure.
I might support Democrats every now and again. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's something somewhere.
Yeah.
Well,
that's on Thursday, and we'll have, I think our leadership team is rerunning for election, so Holly included, and I will tell you this, just a quick sidebar, and maybe a shout out even to our party, like the Twilla County Republican Party. Everywhere I go in the state and people I talk to, they say, you guys have the best party leadership.
Oh, hands down.
And Holly has done great things with our party.
Holly treats it like it's a newborn child that needs to be fed all the time.
Absolutely.
She takes good care of it. She focuses a lot on it. Just she's been on the show hundreds of times.
Right.
And she comes in here before we start. She's talking about what she's got coming up for the party.
Yeah.
And before she leaves, she's planning up other stuff. She's always working for all you Republicans out here. I couldn't imagine a better choice.
Yeah, so we've got that. We got the SCC spots, the Central Committee members. Just encourage everyone to get out. If you're a delegate, be there. I'll be there. Be speed.
Now, is that just for county delegates or state delegates?
It's for all delegates.
All delegates.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go, I'm going to be to the Twilla County one. The Millard County one's the same night, and so that's part of my district. So I'm probably gonna.
They'll get you next.
I'm sending my wife down there to that one, so they like her better than me anyway. So, but
I know the feeling.
Yeah. So it's funny when I was campaigning down there in Millard County, I went to their convention last year, and there's people lined up at the booth ready to talk to me, and there's a 5 or 6 people in line. I'm talking to somebody and I don't want to cut anyone off. Right. And so my wife starts talking to them, and the one guy in particular, I thought, I should go talk to him. So I went and talked to him and I said, do you have any questions? And he goes, no, I talked to your wife already. And I said, well, she's way better than me. So if you're good with that, then I'm okay too. But
she is a squared away lady.
Yeah, she is. So so there's that coming up. The convention I think is really important. Love to see you guys there. And then there's a town hall.
Yeah, we saw that. Threw an ad for it up on the.
Yeah, coming up. That's May 2nd at the Twila County Chamber. So if you guys want to attend that, probably have some treats there. And the speaker of the house will be there, Brad Wilson. You have a chance to talk with him a little bit, ask him some questions.
Do you remember when you did that town hall where you were running, where all it was the county delegate?
Yeah.
That your table had the best treats. I do remember that.
We always have the best treat, and that's not me. That's my wife, right?
Obviously.
So, yeah, but you gotta do that, when you're running. So
you got to butter people up.
Yes, you do.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know, anything else you guys want to talk about? I just
let's-
appreciate being here. And
You're welcome anytime, and thank you for coming. Let's read through some comments real quick. All right, so Blair Hope, he says you're a stud. The duck stamp is for waterfowl. Yeah, if you're gonna duck hunt, I like the online stamp idea.
Yeah,
I like the idea of just sign on, you get it, and you go.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, now on to the heavy stuff. Blair Hope says exactly, we need to stop suicide. Suicide prevention awareness needs to be equal in all areas. We agree. 988 is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
I believe it was that was Chris Stewart's pet project a couple of years ago, and that's a national suicide, kind of like 911.
Yeah, it was Stewart's.
It's an emergency.
Yeah, and then here
And Thatcher
in Thatcher was our state guy locally that worked on it. The larger picture of suicide is multifold. It states with love in the home and then love in our society. Yes, I think I do like the idea of getting therapy before someone gets to that point too, of offering help and anything we can do. So I like the idea of building I don't know if it has to be a state funded therapy line, but I don't know, some way that the state can assist people who maybe can't afford it on their own.
Yeah, sure.
And give them tools to reach out to it, even if it's because like out in Callio, if you're a teenager out in Callio, where are you going to get treatment?
Well, it is true, because this individual that I talked to about her son, who was 14, right, when he took his own life, they were traveling to Provo, and they live in that's a 2.5 hour drive for them.
Yeah,
and they were doing it 3 times a week.
And that day, therapy that should be helping you becomes a burden on you, on your parents, on your siblings, on everything. When it takes a 4-hour
that's right
turnaround just to go get it done.
Yeah.
So
I know in Brazil, my wife's country, they have their therapists are pretty much all on Zoom. So you do it right through your phone.
I think that's how a lot of stuff is moving that way up here. It's that BetterHelp. If you ever listen to a podcast, I'd say 9 out of 6 of them talk about BetterHelp. I know the numbers didn't add up. It's okay.
Yeah.
But BetterHelp, and it's an online therapy where you sign up online. I don't know if insurance is accepted through it. Maybe that's something the state can help with, is getting the insurance to broaden its scope onto where it has help if it doesn't offer that.
Yeah, all good ideas. And again, I'm not an expert in it. My goal is just to reach out to those that are and just say, hey, look, what can we do? And what can I do as a legislator to put something in place for especially rural teenagers and just see that happens. Because
even here in Twila.
Yeah, for sure.
How many therapists do we have here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do we have any private therapists here in Twila?
I'm not sure. That's a good question.
We have Valley Mental Health.
That's right. Yeah.
And most of that is kind of a emergency style stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and our county health departments are a good resource.
They're
But however,
great.
I think this is a very specific, with youth and people growing up. I think this is it's a very specific issue, and I think we need to put some resources to it. So
Yeah, imagine being a teenager nowadays when the best music that is coming out is that damn mumble rap. I feel pretty rough about life too. It's
yeah,
awful.
yeah.
Oh, all right. And then we got, well, jumped. The larger picture of suicide is multifold. Okay, we read that one. One of the hardest things to hear is when you go to a funeral of a suicide victim and you hear the speakers tell how great and wonderful that person is. The question we should be asking ourselves is, what didn't we tell them when, sorry, gotta read the rest, when they were alive? Have you made somebody feel good about themselves lately? And that's a good point. It's a good point. Then, if we can end this show on this last comment that is an outstanding comment, I'll let Dave read it.
Blair says, "Thank you, Bridger.
He's misspelled.
Bridger?
He misspelled Bolinder.
Okay.
That happens all the time.
Bolinder. Remember, accentuate the O. We're going to bring Utah into the 21st century.
I don't know. Maybe it was his pet
In
name.
Utah, you say Bolinder like you say mountain.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
You get it, Jared.
it's all Grantsville.
Blair says, "Thank you. You have made us proud," which is good to hear your constituents say positive things about their representatives.
Especially when it's an upstanding constituent such as Blair, who's very active in help in aiding people.
Absolutely. No, that means a lot. So,
Yeah.
and I'll just close with I appreciate feedback, from constituents and all those, and I'm happy to represent certainly Twilla County and Millard County and even the little part of Juab that I have, and if you've got concerns or questions, just reach out, get me through the website or
Announce your
website.
stuff real quick. So.
Yeah, so just Utah legislature, and you can just go. There's my email and my phone number, and feel free to text or email, and just love to hear from everybody that's a constituent, especially. So
You okay giving your phone number out on here in your email?
yeah, I could. My email is just so I actually have two numbers. I have a
They give him a new number. His
they give you a
Secret Service phone number.
It's a you know what? I'll post it somewhere.
All right.
I'll post it.
What he'll do is
you'll have it. So
he'll email it to me, and I will put it in the show notes for this show.
there you go.
So you can go to the show notes and find her. You can go to Utah Legislature and look him up, and that's what that website is for. So you can go there, find your guy, look him up, send him a message, say, "Hey, I have this issue," or "Hey, you stinky dirtbag, I don't like you anymore." Whatever.
You get some of those too.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. But I have to say that I don't like that they feel the conservatives is going to move them to a radical right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's because the people on the other side are trying to crazily adjust the country. They're not understanding that conservatives wanted to, stay where it's at or make slow, precise movements.
Yeah, for sure.
I wouldn't even call it conservative feelings or movements. I would say it's like you're freedom orientated.
Yeah. Well, I would just boil it down to Utah values, right? I think that's the thing to me is, as I got into it, I'm like keeping Utah, right? I mean, that's the big thing. It's growing, it's changing, and keeping Utah the way that it's always been for you and I. And Dave, you're a New Yorker. We like when people move here and feel the same way about Utah that we do. And so I think just keeping Utah, I think is the biggest thing. And conservative, right wing, call it whatever you want. These are Utah values, and that's what we're here to maintain. So.
They are, until a radical right wing party shows up and wants to do radical right stuff.
Yeah.
And then you'll see Utahns become conservative, except on the don't be crazy reckless full side.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is. I wish people would recognize that and see the conservatives for what they are. They're the rudder. They're They're the rudder on the ship, and the wind will blow the sails around wherever it wants, but the rudder is going to keep it the direction that is positive.
Yeah. Well, thanks,
All right.
guys. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Bridger.
Thanks for coming on.
I want to thank you for that steel man of the flag argument, because
Yeah.
that gives me a lot to chew on thinking about it.
Watch the presentation. It's Senator McKay, like him or not, he does a great presentation on it, and I think it's worth watching.
All right.
So
I'll check it
anyway.
out.
And everyone out there on that flag argument, I just want you to keep in mind we're talking supposedly $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
But when they tell you $500,000, my theory is multiply that by 4, and
Read
you
the
might have a
comma.
more accurate price. But you got to figure out what branding is worth to you. And
I'm still on the side of wanting our traditional flag. I still sit on that side, but at least now I recognize the other side,
Sure.
because I had no recognition at all of it.
Yeah.
And that's what threw me off the whole time.
Because I don't think it's, and I'll just close with this. I don't think it's fair to say that the side that wants the change is not patriotic, or they don't care about our
Yes.
history, and I don't think it's fair to say that those that want to keep our state flag are extremists or anything. Like, it's good arguments from both sides.
How come McKay's side hasn't made not one short video explaining that?
I don't know.
Even making just running an ad in the newspaper, or they don't have to put some on TV. We got free means of video
Yeah,
all the
sure.
time. They're welcome on here to come on this show, but
Yeah.
how come not one of them has made that argument?
That's a good question. Yeah, and maybe they haven't that I'm aware of. I don't
And
know.
if they have, they've kept it down very short corridors of people.
Sure.
And McKay could take 10 minutes to sit down and say, look, this is my experience.
Yeah.
And this is why I want to do this. Imagine what it'd look like. This is what I envision. I
Yeah.
want to have a flag that when you walk through the Savannah airport, you don't confuse us with Illinois.
Yeah. Well, and he does it. Like I said, he does a good presentation in the committee, and
He needs to do it for the people.
yeah, and get online, watch it, and you can kind of take what you got from it. But again, I'm proud that I voted no. I'm fine with that.
Well, yeah,
Like,
that's what you're a representative.
yeah,
of course.
Right. So that's where I'm at. And so I don't know. I just if the signatures work out and they get the referendum, then the people will decide, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Well,
So
that'd be an easy way to deal with it, wouldn't it?
sure, yeah.
So let that group of people be mad at that group of people, but
Right.
the voice was heard. But yeah, I like gotta have to say, I was staunchly against it until that was explained to me, because I have been to those places.
I'm not trying to sway you. I'm just telling you
No,
the
but
presentation, and that's,
You opened
that
up
was
my
where-
eyes to an experience of mine.
That's where it was, and so if I get time this weekend, I'll find the video and send it to you.
Perfect.
Presentation. So,
Perfect. And your phone number and email
yeah,
address.
I'll do that. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Everyone, again, thank you. Bridger Bolinder. He's representing Grantsville, Millard, Little Slice of Juab, Callio. If you guys haven't been to Callio, does it still have that big reverse speed bump right in the middle of the dog leg?
There's a lot of speed bumps out there in Callio, but they're potholes probably mostly.
It is a dog leg street with 6 houses?
Yeah, maybe something like that. It's let me just tell you this while we're on the Callio subject. There's a great little store out there.
Yeah.
And it's over there by
Whose house is it in?
well, it's one of the ranchers out there that have it in it's a great place. I went out there for their Chamber of Commerce, West Desert Chamber of Commerce barbecue last summer. And for me, they were shocked that I showed up, and I thought, any excuse to come out here, because me and my son turned it into a camping trip, right?
Yeah.
We went up in the deep creeks and we camped, and it was
I
great.
love going, and deep creeks are just beautiful.
They're awesome.
Like you're driving across this god awful desert.
Yeah.
And then this lush, beautiful, rugged, and scary mountain just appears. And it's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool out there.
And then you got fish springs.
Yep.
I've heard that's drying up though.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be back.
Maybe it'll be
not
back
this
now.
year.
We'll see.
Yeah. But anyways, everyone, again, thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching and the support. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, safe weekend. Tomorrow, we've got a show tomorrow, right?
We do.
With a lady from
Cache County. She's
Cache
running
County.
for treasurer, I think.
I think treasurer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a Cache County lady coming on talking about her treasurer run. And we do appreciate being able to be a medium where people can come on and talk to people, and maybe hear a moron and Dave talk. Yeah. You guys have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks.